Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, I'm Bob from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, as a family-owned company, our goal has been simple: to give our neighbors of the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick out the perfect appliances. We'll take care of everything throughout the sale, delivery, and installation process. And we even have our own in-house service department. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.com.
Good evening. I would like to open the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is Monday, September 12th, 2022. It is now 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiation with non-union personnel, interim manager Peter Johnson-Staub. Secondly, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, police sergeants. Thirdly, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, COVID premium pay. And lastly, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, firefighters union. And to not go into executive session would impede the bargaining impact.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call?
Brown, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Scott Price, aye.
Aye. Soslowski, aye.
Taylor, aye. And this board will return to open session, public session at 7 o'clock. Okay, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is Monday, September 12th, 2022. It is now 7:03, and the board just returned from executive session. And I'd just like to report out on our executive session. We have come to a verbal agreement with Acting Town Manager Peter Johnson-Staub to become interim town manager, so stay tuned for that. We have approved collective bargaining with the Falmouth Police Sergeants, and we have approved collective bargaining COVID premium pay for employees. And with that, I would ask you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would ask that you all please silence your cell phones, and if this meeting is being recorded by FCTV, and if there's anyone in the crowd that is making a video or audio recording of this open session meeting, please notify the chair. Thank you. Okay, we have a proclamation.
I'd like to read that, Madam Chair.
That would be great. Thank you, Ms. Scott Price.
Town of Falmouth Proclamation Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas the Hispanic Heritage Experience, also known as Spanish Heritage, is a part of many lives and is valued as a part of our nation's and our town's rich diversity. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is an important reminder of how much strength we draw as a nation from our immigrant roots and our values as a nation of immigrants. And whereas September 15th is significant because it's the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, and Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and 18th respectively. And whereas the town of Falmouth seeks to foster an environment that is welcoming and supportive for all residents and visitors regardless of national origin, ethnic background, or race. And whereas learning about and acknowledging systemic racism is necessary to develop policies that promote equitable experiences and productive lives for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Whereas equitable experiences and full inclusion is a matter of social justice. Consequently, creating equitable, inclusive environments is a shared responsibility of everyone. Now, therefore, the Town of Falmouth Select Board proclaims September 15th, 2022 to October 15th, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and commits to the pursuit of equitable and inclusive policies and a culture that appreciate the value of every resident.
Second.
Oh, almost done.
Oh,
In
sorry.
witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the great seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I would just ask that on this proclamation, you look at the dates. Please, it says September 15th, 2021 to October 15th, 2021. We could change the dates on that prior to signing it. That would be great. Thank you. Recognitions,
I have one, Madam Chair.
please.
2 Fridays ago, I had the pleasure of spending the entire day with the Falmouth Fire Department. It was not only a lot of fun, as you can imagine, hanging out with firefighters and going on the truck and trying on the gear, but it was also just a really awesome opportunity to get to see what our fire department actually does on a daily basis. And I had a whole list of amazing firefighters who spent the day showing me around, telling me about their experiences, why they became firefighters, and it was a wonderful time to just listen. And so I'd like to just recognize all of the firefighters that I got to spend some time with. So I would like to list their names. Deputy Fire Chief Scott Thrasher, of course, Chief Tim Smith, Lieutenant Paramedic Timothy Bailey, Lieutenant Paramedic Mark Deo, Firefighter EMT Rob Beery, Firefighter Paramedic Kevin Cahill, Firefighter Paramedic Josh Sutherland, Firefighter EMT Stephen Loaria, Lieutenant Paramedic Ann Bartos, Firefighter Paramedic Steve Bush, Firefighter Paramedic John Borselli, and Firefighter Paramedic James Craven. I want to say again thank you to all the firefighters, especially those that I've named, for welcoming me to the fire department on Friday and showing me what everyone really does there. So thank you.
Nice.
And thank you, Chief Smith, for encouraging those types of visits.
I just wanted to also extend our thanks for the opportunity to host you for the day. Not only was it educational for you to spend the day with us, it was educational for our personnel because they felt like they had somebody that was there that they could express the work that they're doing, and they know that there's been a lot of discussion, and it gave them a lot of I see not. I'm trying to think of the best word here, but I think that they saw this opportunity as as just as good for you as it was for them to ride along with us and see what they're doing every day. So they wanted to also have me extend the thanks to you and to the board as well for the ongoing support. So again, anybody from the board's welcome to spend the day with us. Not on a rainy day, probably won't do that much, but obviously, we were grateful for the opportunity to show you what we do. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Chief. Any other recognitions? Nope. We'll move on to announcements. We have a few in our packet.
We have the police department's open house.
Would you like to do that announcement, Mr. Brown?
Sure.
Go for it.
Pardon me?
No, these are announcements from the board.
So the Falmouth Police Department's having their annual open house on Saturday, September 24th, 2022, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the Falmouth Police Department. You can join them for tours of the police station, activities for children, canine demonstrations, and displays of equipment. There'll also be refreshments available, and all are welcome to attend. It's a fun time to see their equipment and check out what they do.
And see the dogs. I always love the
Enjoy that.
canines.
The Sheriff's Department will be there with the dogs. And another announcement I'd like to do, if I could, Madam Chair, is the
Yes, please.
announcing the Comcast has an Save on Internet Affordable Connectivity Program. Learn how to get free connected home internet. I mean, if people are on any type of assistance, whether it's with the school free lunch or any kind of assistance, you likely qualify for a discounted rate from Xfinity. And if you really are in need, you might get, I think, free internet service. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but people should certainly look into it. And there's going to be an open house from Comcast on October 4th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. at the Falmouth Public Library, 300 Main Street in the Herman Meeting Room. This is a great thing for people to make themselves aware of. I think there's a lot of people in town that could probably take advantage of this, so I'd like to see us getting the word out. I know they're passing it out in the schools, and we're doing all we can to put the word out. So if you have any questions, you can contact the Select Board's office, and we'll send this flyer out to you. Okay?
And maybe we could post that on our website.
Sure.
That would be great.
Yeah, we'll put it on the website as well. Good.
Any other announcements from board members? Yes.
I would just like to make note that the Woods Hole Diversity Advisory Committee is sponsoring Hispanic Heritage Month events for the first time. There's a number of events starting on September 15th, and there's another one on September 19th, and then October 14th. It's in our packet, and also if you just Google Woods Hole Hispanic Heritage Month, that's the first thing that comes up. And so there's information about what Hispanic Heritage Month is, and then all the activities that are being hosted.
Anything else from the board? Announcements? Okay. We will move on to public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself. And since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the Select Board may not participate in discussion of the topic and will not participate in any debate. It is not appropriate to use the public comment period to comment on any person's reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, disciplinary matters, or civil or criminal charges. Comments about job performance and decisions made are permissible. Anyone here for public comment? Now is your time, Mr. Moriarty. Just remind me. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name's Dave Moriarty. resident of Falmouth, Massachusetts, and I have some good news for the public tonight. The electricity has been finally cut to Wind 1 and Wind 2, the Falmouth wind turbines. The nightmare has been finally put to rest.
Speak to the board, Mr. Moriarty, please.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
They'll be draining the fluid this week, and hopefully by weekend it'll be the demolition time. It's only taken 12 years, 7 years of litigation, 12 years of waiting, but thank God it's happened. And I just like to say, it's just a healthy reminder when you jump into a project and you don't really know what you're doing and the outcomes, and sometimes they're disastrous. Like this one was a disastrous project for the town, and it should have taken more investigation before we invested in it. So it's just a warning for the future. And I just want to thank our new acting town manager for applying to intervene on behalf of the town for the upcoming megawatt cable project, which is still in the works and it's still going on. So as soon as we could get a meeting with everyone involved for the citizens of the town, we would really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Any other public comment? Okay, I'd just like to back up to announcements.
Sorry, I don't usually talk this much, so I forgot I had one more announcement. The Cape Verdean Club has a festival happening Saturday, September 17th at the Cape Verdean Club. That's on Sandwich Road from 11 to 6. It's going to be family events. There's a book signing, a lot of activities, learn about the Cape Verdean culture. Again, that's Saturday, September 17th from 11 to 6.
Thank you. Okay, we need to move on to the town manager's preliminary report. Mr. Johnson-Staub?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On your agenda this evening, you have committee interviews for the Commission on Substance Use. There are 2 applicants for 2 vacancies for that committee. There is also an interview for an at-large member of the Community Preservation Committee, and there is 1 vacancy and 1 applicant there as well. For the Cultural Council, we have 2 applicants and 4 vacant seats. With respect to the public hearings, the Conservation Commission has approved the proposed walkway and float at 31 Southview Way. No concerns have been raised with respect to shellfish or vegetation for that application. The next public hearing that you have is a revisiting a license that was already voted by the Select Board. The ABCC caught a discrepancy in the public hearing notice and has asked that we reissue the public hearing notice, which we have done. This is for a wine and malt common victular license for Dilly's Grill. And I believe the original advertisement said all alcoholic license, so that was the discrepancy. Next on your agenda, you have an application for an entertainment license and a Sunday entertainment license. These are both annual licenses for the Tony Andrews Farm. As the board is probably aware, Jeff Andrews has been running some entertainment, agritourism type of events for many years, and this is the first year that we're really sort of going through the correct process and having an entertainment, because public is being invited onto the property for an entertainment purpose beyond the agricultural purpose of the farm. These issues have been run without incident for many years. Jeff Andrews has met with the police chief and the fire chief to discuss public safety access, and there are no concerns there. There will be a map provided so that public safety has that on hand in the event of any such event. Related to these 2 entertainment licenses, there is on the consent agenda a request for a fee waiver, and I am recommending approval of both the entertainment license and the fee waiver request, consistent with the town meeting approval of the purpose of this property, which is to have a sustainable farm operation. Next on your agenda, we have a request from the Barrows family, who are with us tonight, along with Representative David Vieira, for a letter of support for a mural on the abutment of the Shining Sea Bikeway, where it goes under Curly Boulevard. and that would be a memorial to Kiana Page Barrows, who was tragically murdered on May 10th of this year. Next on your agenda, you have a report from the Library Board of Trustees. I'm not aware of any action that the board is going to be asked to take on that matter tonight. Similarly, you have a report from the Council on Aging, and I'm not aware of any request for Select Board action related to that report tonight. Next, Chair Taylor will discuss the process with the board to seek input on the town manager hiring process. There are several items for the board to consider that the chair has outlined. One is, does the board wish to have a search committee? Do you want to appoint a search committee? If there is a search committee to be appointed, what is the composition and scope of that committee? And does the board wish to retain a firm to assist with the recruitment and selection process? And finally, what will the timeline for that process be? I do want to mention that I have filed a conflict of interest disclosure for an appearance of a conflict of interest. I obviously have no authority in that process. I may be a candidate for that position, so I will not be participating in any dialogue that you have on those matters about the selection process. Next on your agenda, you have the annual town meeting warrant for this coming November. There are 14 articles on the warrant, and I will briefly describe them when we get to that agenda item. Next on your agenda, you have a disclosure of financial interest in a municipal contract from Dr. Taylor, who is seeking to accept a temporary engagement working with the Falmouth School Department, and the board is asked to vote to approve her request for that purpose in light of her position on this board. On the consent agenda, all of the licenses and administrative orders have been reviewed by staff, and I recommend approval. Note that there are 3 appointments listed under the consent agenda, and they're under the consent agenda because these are confirming representatives selected by other entities. And there are no minutes in your packet for tonight, but we will have at least 2 ready for your consideration at the next meeting. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. We will move on to committee interviews. And the first one is the Commission on Substance Use, and Greg Giardi is our first candidate. Is he here? He is not. Okay. Doris Kramer, am I saying that correct? Kramer. Please come up to the podium. Just tell us a bit about yourself, and then I will ask if the board has any questions of you.
Thank you so much. I have been a resident of Falmouth since 2008, and I am a mother of a son who's in long-term recovery. I've been working with an organization called Learn to Cope that you may be familiar with, where we support family members who are struggling with a loved one who has substance use disorder. And over the course of this past summer, since I've retired, I've been spending my time meeting with key stakeholders to find a way to help these communities that appear to be quite siloed work together, collaborate on the funds that will be coming in shortly to be spent to address the opioid overdose awareness and harm reduction, and just meeting to find a way to help solve this problem. And that is why I'm applying for this commission. I'm actually a registered nurse with mental health experience. And so I feel like my skills, my career, my profession allows me to really empathize with those who are struggling with this disease, but also help communities deal with this, rather than replicating what's going on in every single community, trying to bring the CAPE together. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just want to note 2 things on your application. One, thank you for sharing that you are the parent of a child in long-term recovery. I think it's really important for people to know that, because your ability to empathize and to help families understand what you understand is critical in this work. So I want to thank you for that. The other thing I thought was great was that you can train families in the use of Narcan.
Yes.
That's awesome. And being a nurse, quite
Yes,
frankly.
part of my role at Learn to Cope is I am a Narcan trainer. So we're able to provide this to the community free of charge because we're sponsored by the Department of Public Health. And the nice part is I'm not looking for grants or anything else. I am sponsored by the Department of Public Health. And one of the things that I discovered over the course of the summer is some of the gaps of services that aren't available as well, and Narcan happens to be one of those. But there's very few services for family members. There's things for children and schools, nothing for family members. And so we have one chapter down in Yarmouth that's been in Yarmouth for several years. Learn to Cope has been around since 2004. We have 27 chapters across Massachusetts, and we also have 12,000 members online because we've been meeting via Zoom during COVID. So I feel like I have quite a wealth of experience and support with the program that I'm working with, and I want to extend that here and potentially open a Learn to Cope chapter here in Falmouth.
Any questions from the board?
I'd just like to comment, I'm excited to hear that you'd like that regional approach to be considered, because I think we're, in the whole Cape, the whole area, everywhere, we're struggling with it, and it impacts so much. It impacts the police, the fire department, the hospital staff. I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine who was one of the security guards at the hospital. He got injured wrestling with a person that was intoxicated, and, you know, it's just all the things you don't think of, all the impacts that are happening. So thank you for volunteering to help with this.
If we don't have any other questions, I'd really like to move your application forward. I think you'd be an incredible asset.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, you know what? After two, I should have said, for a term ending June
go ahead.
30th, 2025.
Yes. And Greg Giardi is not here. Okay?
So do we hold, Madam Chair, do we hold that?
I think we'll
for
wait.
another meeting? So we
I
can
think we'll
interview?
wait to see if he comes back. Community Preservation Committee for the CPC, Tom Crane. Is he with us? Hello, Mr. Crane. Welcome.
Thank you. Would you like to hear just briefly about me or my interest in the committee, or all the above?
We've got it, but you can certainly tell us something about yourself. Yes.
Sure. So I've been a summer permanent resident all of my life. In the 1970s through about 80, I lived here year-round. Was on many volunteer boards. I think I was one of the founding volunteers and trustees of Salt Pond. Maybe not founding, but I was really an early member, very active in that, in the Woods Hole Community Association. Left for what I called my wayward years in D.C. When I was an attorney down there. And I've moved back here 2 years ago full-time as a resident. I've retired from my law firm in Boston. And, you know, I just think the CPA is a treasure. You know, that we can put aside money for these projects that we're not otherwise likely to fund. You know, I just think it's a remarkable story. And I just, it would be an honor to serve. I also would note in approaching the committee, I do have some history working in town government or volunteering in town government in my former home in Weston. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm familiar with the ins and outs of town government. But also, you know, I just would like to say, because these are tax monies on these projects, you know, I do believe in looking at them carefully and making sure that the town's belief and enthusiasm for this program is maintained by, you know, rigorous thinking on the applications.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Nope. I might just say that Tom showed up at the last Community Preservation Committee meeting, so he's jumped in to become familiar already, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, so to correct the record, I when I applied, I said I hadn't been, and I thought, gee, that's not right, I really need to go. And so I did go last Thursday, so we'll correct the record on that.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll move Mr. Crane's appointment to a term to the Community Preservation Committee ending 6/30/2023.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your
Thanks.
willingness to serve. Okay, Cultural Council, Nicole Ingstrom. Is Nicole here?
Yes, she is.
There she is.
Hello,
Hi, welcome.
thank you.
We have your application. Is there anything you want to add to it?
Not really.
Okay, do we have questions from the board?
No, she sounds like she's a cultural person. She's a self-employed
A
musician.
musician, I love that. Okay, I'll accept a motion.
I would so move appointment of
Term ending
2025, I think. Yes. I would appoint Nicole Engstrom to the Cultural Commission to a term ending 6/30/2025.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome. And we have a second applicant for the Cultural Council, George Shar. Is George here? Oh, there he is.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a music teacher at Falmouth Academy, as you see. I have a passion for bringing young people into all the arts. I'm also the arts chair there, and I think there's a space in the community to bring some young folks up into the management of music as well as enjoying that passion. I'm also a musician, for the record.
You're a musician, great. Any questions from the board? Comments?
Nope, I think this resume speaks for itself. I think certainly
I'll
can.
entertain a motion.
I would so move appointment of George Shar to the Cultural Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay.
Chair? There
Yes.
are 2 vacancies for 2025. I don't know if you
are
want
there?
to.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Would you be willing to go the extra year?
Yes.
2 terms. Get everything we can get out of him. Go for 25.
I'll amend that to June 30th, 2025.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. We can begin our hearings. It is 7:30.
On the dot. Wow.
Yeah, you're on it.
And it looks by this, we're late. Public hearings, Wetlands, Doc, Karen, and Peter Hargraves. Would you read the notice, please?
The Falmouth Select Board will hold a public hearing under Section 240-14.8 Wetlands Regulations of the zoning bylaws of the Town of Falmouth on Monday, September 12, 2022, at 7:15 p.m. in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square, on the application of Peter and Karen Hargraves for permission to construct an elevated walkway, ramp, and float system located at 31 Southview Way, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. Area affected is Flax Pond. Interested parties may review the file on this hearing at the Office of Select Board. Per order of the Select Board, publication dates Friday, August 26, 2022, and Friday, September 2nd, 2022, Falmouth Enterprise.
Okay, you can begin, and we've given you 15 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. The Hargraves are here this evening if there's any specific questions for them. They own a property at 31 Southview Way. It has frontage on Flax Pond. Flax Pond is a great pond, freshwater pond, and they're proposing to permit and install a light-duty walkway and float system that'll gain them access to the waterfront for their use and enjoyment. This is the 4th application I've submitted to you in the recent past. You have reviewed and approved 3 others. I have been to the Conservation Commission, filed a notice of intent application, and approval was issued via an order of conditions that it would allow this to go forward. If you approve this, we then have to go to DEP to get a Chapter 91 license. I've submitted the plans that include some details. There's a profile of the structure, which will begin at the top of a slope on the upland, and access to it will be via a path through the woodland That'll bridge over the steep part of the slope. There's very limited access to the pond because the lot is fully wooded and it has a moderate to steep slope down to the pond. It would be treacherous to try to walk down through the woods to get to the pond. So this access walkway and ramp would allow the Hargraves to gain foot access down to the floats. They have extended family. They enjoy using the pond for passive recreation, kayaks, canoes, a little bit of fishing, and I think even a little bit of swimming for some of the younger family members. So it's pretty typical of what you've seen in the past. It's pipe or post supported, all environmentally friendly materials. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
And Madam Chair, I'd just like to make a note that I did have a chance to visit the property this past week, and I noticed that many of the neighbors have similar structures.
Curious about the permanent galvanized pipe. What are those, techno posts or something similar?
That or something similar. They'd be galvanized pipe that would be driven into the bottom. They may be sleeved so that they look more aesthetically pleasing.
They'll have some sort of base other than just the pipe.
They're gonna be actually driven into the bottom. So
they may be just pipe.
They may be just pipe.
Just
yep.
curious question. Thank you.
And there's a the idea is to leave it in year round and have a bowler system for ice.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor to close the hearing? Aye.
Questions from the public, Madam Chair?
Good question. I didn't see anyone here from the public to speak on this. Good catch. Thank you. Any conversation on the board? Any concerns, issues?
Nope. Looks.
I would move approval.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Porcelli.
Thank you.
Good luck, Mr. and Mrs. Hargraves. Well, I don't know. Okay, let's move on. We have a liquor license hearing, and this is simply a change because when we voted it, they found a discrepancy.
Correct.
And so I don't know if someone is here representing Dilly's Grill.
Should I read the hearing?
I'd like you to read the hearing notice, please.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Dilly's Grill LLC, doing business as Dilly's Taqueria, has applied for a wine and malt beverages common victualler license to be exercised at 281 Main Street, Falmouth, Massachusetts. A hearing will be held in the Select Board's meeting room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, September 12th, 2022 at 7:30 on the above application. Per order of the Select Board, publication date Friday, August 19th, 2022, Falmouth Enterprise.
And again, I'll just remind the board that this is a revote of the application because originally it listed it as all alcoholic, and it should have read wine and malt. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion among the board?
Having already discussed this, I would simply move approval.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, we will move on to business. Approve application for an entertainment license and Sunday entertainment license. Tony Andrews Farm, 394 Old Meeting House Road. Is anyone here to represent this?
Joe Andrews is here if there are any questions, but I think we have a complete application. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the events are. Certainly, if the board has any questions, either myself or Mr. Andrews can respond.
Do we have any questions?
Nope. The only thing I would say is that our approval would be contingent on the plans that were discussed being submitted and work out the details with fire and police for the safety issues.
Yeah, and I would say we're well on our way.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
I'd move to approve the application, given Mr. Johnson-Staub's comments and the conditions therein.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, including the caveat from Mr. Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a report, a request for support for the bike path overpass mural. Representative David Vieira, you have 5 minutes, Mr. Vieira.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I don't need 5 minutes. I'll just briefly say that Robert and April are here tonight, the Barrows family. We're working together to try to get a Mass DOT access mural permit to, as your packet shows, do a mural that would say "Stop Domestic Violence" on the top. It would have the access hotline, 24/7 hotline to Independence House, which is our Cape-based referral service and community services for domestic violence and sexual assault. And we're really hoping to be able to do this in a timeline that allows the mural to be unveiled in October, Domestic Violence Month. And we're working with the acting town manager and the special events committee to try to do a small walk, family-based walk that we hope could become an annual walk in the future to support Independence House and to make sure that those that are victims and the families of domestic violence know what resources are on the Cape and that we support those resources going forward. And so we just would like your support letter so I can complete the DOT application, but we want to honor Kiana Page Barrows, and the Barrows family really wants to make this something that reaches into the community to help others that might be seeking services.
I really, really like the idea, and I appreciate the family being willing to support this with this gorgeous picture of their daughter and to remind people about domestic violence. It's real, and also to have those resources. So I would, if are there any questions from the board, comments?
I just want to say I'm very sorry for your loss, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to support you and other families.
Madam Chair, I'd move the representative's request, the family's request.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So Representative Vieira, we will create a letter of support from this board in order for you to complete your Mass DOT permit application. And thank you for taking this on.
Thank you very much. And just if we could have it electronically transferred, because I have to upload it in a portal, then that's the last piece of the application. So I don't need paper. I just need an electronic version.
We will do that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vieira. Mr. Barrows.
Okay, we have a report from the Board of Library Trustees. Ms. Fenwick. 15 minutes you've been allotted.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, after having sat in the audience, if you could bring your microphones a little closer, because some of your voices are not carrying to the back row. It might be my age, but just always be helpful. The back row is shrinking, however. So
thank you.
I'm very pleased to be here representing the Board of Library Trustees. This is the second time I've come to give a verbal report to you. It'll be fairly short. You've given me 15 minutes, but I didn't give anything to you in written form because I think you've got enough reading to do. And I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I will be submitting the annual report for the town print annual report later this month. So I'm Judy Fenwick. I'm currently the chair of the Board of Library Trustees, and I like to think that unlike other elected boards in town, we don't have our own TV show. So what I'd like to do is just take a few moments to introduce the other members of the board. They're not here. I'm designated. Jennifer Alai is on the board. She's currently serving in her second term. Kathy Elder, also serving in her second term. Lucy Helfrich, who was new in 2021. Lindsay Hopewood, who's serving in her third term. She's our senior member. Kathy Mount, who's serving in her second term. And Mary Fran Buckley, who has just started as of May when she was elected. So we're an all-female board. We get things done. I want to say that this is the first report sort of post-COVID, and I really do want to back up on one person who went off the board in May of 2021, and that was Sylvia Shulkin, May 22, was Sylvia Shulkin, who had served on the board laudably for 12 years. So, on to that. As an elected board, we have responsibilities for facilities, for finances, for some staffing, and for policy oversight. And one of the most important things, of course, are finances. We help the director of the library develop the town operating budget, which you oversee. And the board also manages a trustee fund that has grown measurably in the past 10 years, and that is overseen by our treasurer, which goes back to a vote of town meeting in 1912 that established that the Board of Library Trustees treasurer could manage the funds. They're town funds, but the town does not manage them. And also a large portion of this trustee fund that we have, which just topped over $1 million, thanks to some really substantial donations over the past 10 years, will be significantly designated for construction programs that we may be undergoing. Part of our trustee fund is used for programming. We have an annual budget of about $40,000 a year that supports the library, both physically, structurally, and with programming. One of the important things that we are going to be funding, as I said, for construction possibly, is the East Falmouth branch, which we've just begun to discuss with the Massachusetts Library Board of Commissioners under the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program, which has changed recently. And Nancy will know about the construction program for schools, and the one for public libraries has been simplified, if that's even possible at the state level, in the last few years. So the East Falmouth branch is a very important branch library because it really serves an underserved part of our community. And as we reported to the East Falmouth Village Association in July, and was covered during some of our board meetings in May and April of this year, that we are looking very closely at making sure that that library can serve more people. Currently, we surveyed the community about needs and wishes they had with the library branch, and one of the main things that they said was they would like more hours, which, as you know, is very tough to expand a town operating budget, especially mid-year, in order to satisfy a strong need in the community. Our director, Linda Collins, was creative in finding a way to take some funds that were not going to be expended because of position changes, and we have had a pilot program going this summer to increase the number of hours by 4, which isn't a lot. But the East Falmouth branch is currently open 26 hours a week, and with those 4, it's now open 30 hours a week. And just for comparison, the main branch is open 51 hours a week, and North Falmouth 18 hours a week. So as part of looking at this construction program, in the next 2 years, we're going to be performing a building assessment of the current building the East Falmouth branch is in. And then we'll get serious about not filling out an application like we used to have to do with this for the construction program, but they've now embedded all sorts of things like a design study will happen after we've expressed interest, and so they don't want that to be a cost to the town, but it would be embedded in the construction program that we'd be applying for. And I go into this about East Falmouth because, you know, the main branch, it's not a branch, the main library gets all the attention, and we really feel that the East Falmouth branch needs to get some more respect, and we'll hopefully be able to do that. Annually, out of our trustee fund, we fund adult and young adult programs, and in fiscal year 21, fiscal year 22, which is what I'm reporting on now, we had 231 programs in those two areas with over 4,300 participants. Now, 1/3 of those programs were virtual, and that was a big change. We hadn't done virtual programs except during the COVID time when we didn't have people in the building as much. Last year, when I wrote my annual report, I talked about a Latin term, felix culpa, that translates as happy fault. And it means that out of a disaster may come some good actions. And if 2020 and 2021 were a disaster, I certainly think we can consider that. And what the library had to do was assess how it conducted its business. When we weren't able to have people in the building, we still wanted to make sure that services were met. And so many of the things that we did from March of 2020 all the way through probably the middle of 2021 caused us to reinvent, increase our partnerships, more outreach, and especially expansion of digital access. And I was hoping back last year that some of those things that where we rejiggered in order to meet services would continue, and that's why the increase in the number of programs and the number of people able to participate is because 1/3 of those programs were virtual. So I know that our programming will ramp up and become, we'll be able to keep growing. Last year, we just had 38 programs on the library lawn, and that is outside organizations, mostly local organizations, versus 3 the year before, because we just weren't doing programming, even if it was outside. I want to remind folks that in addition to the town operating budget that supports the libraries, that we have 2 organizations that support us. The Friends of the Falmouth Public Library, they run an amazing book sale every year. This year they grossed $63,000, and that was low because they didn't have as many books to donate. They'd only had what was in storage from the year that we couldn't have the library book sale. And the Friends cover programming as well. They cover children's programming. They also pay for the digital collections that the library has, the Joy of Learning classes, museum passes, all of these intangibles that are there if you ask for them. And we also have the Falmouth Public Library Support Fund that has contributed a large portion, especially for one wonderful program last year, which was to create a new space in the library for a group of young people who talk about not getting respect, and that's the tweens, the students who are not, in elementary level and they're not teens yet. Linda Collins designed and got funding for it from the Library Support Fund, from the Trustees Fund, and from the Friends of the Falmouth Public Library to create, I think it was a $30,000 project that we shared the expenses on. A really cool space. It's actually, instead of the tween space, there was a contest and the tweens named it the Chill Zone. And if you have a chance to go down to the children's room and look to the left, it reminds me a little bit of something out of this set of Happy Days, where there's a space that's a lounge, huge project table on wheels so it can be moved around, seating that is not a chair and not a couch, some booths and whiteboards on the walls so that students can, scope out things. And that's the kind of programming that's only possible because we have support outside of even the Trustees Fund. The Falmouth Public Library Support Fund has also started to contribute to programming for the library. And am I on time?
You've got 4 minutes left. You're doing well.
All right. One of the things that they supported recently was an outreach program that the reference librarian, the new reference head of librarian, Phoebe Atchison, is going to conduct to bring non-English speakers into the library for conversational programs, not to teach English as a second language, but to provide space for families especially who can come in and be in conversation groups with other non-English speakers. And this is a wonderful program that will bring people into the library who normally don't come into the library. So I'm going to say I'm through for the evening. If you have any questions for me, other than that, I would yield my time to the Council on Aging.
Any questions? Thank you so much for your work, and I love this new program, the Conversations program. I think it's fabulous. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, we will move on to the report from the Council on Aging, Director Jill Irving Bishop, and you've been slated for 15 minutes. I don't care if you guys want to turn it down. Not too much, though. I don't want to melt.
I'm okay. I'm just
gonna get there soon. No, are you guys too cold?
I brought a sweater.
I'm frozen.
Okay, turn it down.
No, it's
Go ahead.
okay. Only kidding.
No.
Start wearing a jacket pretty soon, right?
I'm gonna wear earmuffs.
Winter's coming.
Are you cold?
Is that absolutely?
Love this.
Are you cold?
Mr. Johnson-Staub, would you be willing to just turn the blower down a bit?
Yeah, just turn the fan down.
Mr. Finneran is cold, and he says he can't hear. Don't turn it down too much.
Hi, good
Hi.
evening. My name is Brenda Swain, and I'm the new chairperson of the Council on Aging. And this is,
Jill Bishop, the Senior Services Director.
and we're going to be presenting together tonight.
Little duet.
Yes.
Great, welcome to you
I
both.
want to point the mic in between you.
The one with no voice might want to stand over there.
Okay, so I'm going to start. And actually, the time that we're talking about, I was not on the board. I had served for 9 years and had to term off for a year, and just recently was put back on in July and elected chair. But during this period of time that we're reporting on, Jim Vieira, who all of you are very familiar with, was our wonderful chairperson. And I'll talk about him in a minute. Currently, I am the chairperson. Cho Clancy is the vice chair. Susan Gallagher, David Hearn, Betsy Hike, Carol Kenny, Jamie McDonald, Rebecca Moffett, and Susan Ripley are all our members. During this period of time in 2022, we met 9 times. Jim served actually more than 9 years because he finished an unexpired term when he began, so he had to term off the board. We were not happy about that. We all really appreciated all of his efforts, as I'm sure that you all have as well. He was on the board from September 2012 to June 2022. He was our chair since 2013. He chaired the Senior Center Site Feasibility Chairperson, and he was also the chair of the Senior Center Building Committee. So he termed off. I came back on, and I was vice chair for 8 years, so they all said, you should do it. So I said, okay. So here I am. And during the year I termed off, I was really lucky because I got to be a very active volunteer at the Senior Center. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the volunteer roles and things that people are able to do there in the building. So I'll be back in a little bit.
Okay, so I just want to touch base on some of the building updates. As you know, I like to show you guys pictures in all of my reports. So here in the upper right, we did add a counter lounge in the cafe. Our cafe program has been truly successful and is a great place that people come on a daily basis to socialize, which is wonderful. We also added a pool table, thanks to the Friends of the Falmouth Senior Center. We had one pool table up in our other social room on the 2nd floor. It is used daily, and we always like to maximize the needs of our space and how to utilize our space. So we shifted some of the chairs in that area and added another pool table, which can also be used as a ping pong table. You'll see the sign with the bump out and the sidewalk. I'd like to thank the DPW team. They worked to create a safer parking lot for us by installing this bump out, a painted stop line, and a stop sign. That's going to help with the traffic that goes along the one way of the front of our building, but more importantly, the vehicles from the back parking lot between the police station and the senior center. There's police vehicles, there's my staff vehicles, and others. The sight line was very weak, so this gives us a sight line, people to be able to stop and turn appropriately. The other addition we had there was 2 additional handicap spaces, which actually is right in front of the senior center. We were able to add those spaces and approved by the planning board as well, and it was easy to not lose spaces in the overall parking spaces, because you can see the crosswalk portion that goes into the second row of parking. We didn't need to lose a space for the handicap, and we were able to add 2 more pretty easily, which was helpful. And lastly, the basement leak repairs. That is a picture of some of the work that was happening last week to dig a little deeper to take care of the leak that's going down into the basement. They have now finished the work, and it is all paved over with pavers similar to our patio area. And we will monitor if there is any continued leaks. It did rain today, but we did not have wind. We looked at it all day long. We'll continue to watch it. They believe it is secure at this point, but we will monitor it going forward. So again, thank you to DPW. They're always pretty amazing for us. I always like to give you guys numbers. So as you guys see in our quarterly reports, we keep the categories as we report to the state. But the biggest thing I want to emphasize here is talking about our enrollment in the new senior center. New enrollment, that's brand new people enrolling in the center, age 60 and up. We had 2,720. For re-enrollment, that's people who were enrolled at the old center, but to get a clean picture of who's enrolled in the new center, we wanted to capture the re-enrollments. We had 2,362. So in this fiscal year, we've had 5,082 people age 60 and up enroll in the center. Needless to say, it's a pretty happening place. Just to hit the categories a little bit for those that may not understand what falls into them. The outreach and advocacy is the general information and referral services, case management, advocacy, client finding with our outreach coordinator and our social worker, our Shine Health insurance counseling. We jump to professional services. We have a number of support groups. Some are led by our licensed social workers. We have legal assistants, tax prep assistants, and many other professional services that we partner with into our center. The support services make up of our transportation, our outreach with our newsletter distribution, not only hard copy, but over email blasts, our technical assistance, SNAP food assistance, fuel assistance, application assistance with housing, and referrals to other professional services. Our health and wellness makes up our Meals on Wheels distribution, any education regarding health and wellness, our weekly wellness clinics with the VNA, our exercise program, which just is exploding, and any other health services that we offer. The other services category makes up our recreational and social programs, trips, and community education programs. And it's funny because a lot of people always hear about the big social and fun programs, but that's not even the big piece of the pie here. And the non-elder services make up for the families and the caregivers that we provide information and referral services to and that we meet with. And for those that I always try and highlight, the per service unit is the interaction per participant in each of these services, okay? So some of the program of service highlights I'd like to touch base on is, one I find extremely important is the reestablishment of the Senior Municipal Support Team. It's a group that I had organized when I first became director, and coming into the new center, I needed to reestablish this program and the connection and collaboration between our municipal departments. This is made up of myself, the outreach coordinator, human services, fire department, police department, and also at times the health department. We meet once a week, we meet once a month, but if we need to collaborate once a week, we do. There are many instances we may be working with a particular resident that we may have knowledge of or come across the path of needing services. So this gives us a chance to come up and discuss how we can best serve this resident, what their needs are, and what the best plan of action is. And it stays on our radar. We follow up, we do case management until it is resolved. The other piece is with the outreach coordinator, I think this is great for our town, is she's been approved to serve as the Falmouth Council on Aging representative for a 3-year term on the Elder Services of Cape and Islands Board of Directors. This opportunity gives us a seat at the table. It gets to help discuss some of the needs in our own community and actually bring information back to us of what's happening at the local level with elder services. Myself and the outreach coordinator were also part of the annual training with the fire department. This was important because, like, when we talk about the municipal support team, it's about collaborating. Police and fire are our eyes and ears in the community. We don't come across every single senior in need. If they're on a call, if they see a situation, we have a mechanism for them to relay the information to us outside of our monthly meetings. So if a firefighter or police come across something, we have something called a REACH referral form, which is reaching elders with additional community help. And what we do is we taught them, once they fill out this form, and we encourage them to fill out the forms, we are then given the forms from either police or fire, and then we can follow up with the senior or the family members to get them the help or the services that they need. This is a very important connection between our departments. We also were able to train them about the mandating reporting with protective services about elders at risk and how important it is that at any given time, if they see something that is uncomfortable or concerning, they need to file a report with protective. And so these are some of the things we were able to work with them, and they actually got to see us, see our staff, and make a connection. We have a lot of new hires in police and fire, so it's good to encourage them to complete these forms and make that connection with the senior services department.
So Jill, when she moved into the new building and expanded greatly her volunteer program, looked for a system that she could help the volunteers to manage their time and their schedules, and she chose Volgistics, which is a really wonderful system. People get a monthly printout of their schedule. They're able to sign up for additional shifts, or if they need to take time off, which as a volunteer, you're not working, so it's important to know that you have flexibility. You can sign yourself off, and then someone else can pick up that shift. So it's been a really great tool. It also is a great way to communicate with the volunteers. You can choose a category, for example, greeter, and Jill or her staff can write to all the greeters, there's an open shift that just happened, can somebody pick it up? So it's been a really excellent system for us to use. Also, Jill mentioned that the exercise classes have mushroomed, and there are so many people signing up. The process for sign up has evolved over the last couple years in the building, last year, and now there's also a way to sign up online through what's called My Active Center, which is used by many senior centers across Massachusetts. And it was very interesting. This was the second session that we just signed people up that way. And the first time was very tricky. The second time was much, much better. There were only maybe 30 or 35 people who came to sign up in person, where there were hundreds who signed up online. So it was really a great way for us to make it more accessible for people who are interested. But I just have to comment, her staff is amazing, because many seniors are challenged by the technology, and they were calling up. I was a greeter on one of the days. They were calling up because they couldn't figure out how to get through and sign up, and they were frustrated. And I heard her at the people at the front talking people through the steps until they saw their name appear on their computer, and she could say, "You're in, you're all set." So they went out of their way to help people, and each time it's getting better and better. So it's nice for them to have that opportunity. Also, newsletters and quarterly reports highlight the programs of all the additional services that people cannot sign up for through each month that are not signed up for through the exercise program. So that's an outside registration. And then during the storm that we had, when people lost power for 3 days, the cafe was open, and I volunteer in the cafe. It was a real hopping place during that time. And there were people everywhere, all over the building, charging their devices, and it was really great that our new facility was able to help people during that time.
Just jump in for a second.
Sure.
Just another note on the volunteers, the online system. It is a component of the My Senior Center system, which is our main database, so it all links together. But we also will always offer an option for in-person signups as well, so we like to give those options. And that warming center, we kept the cafe open all 3 days for full days. We made sure it was covered, and people were able to charge their phones, they were able to watch TV, they were able to keep warm, so it was a great environment.
So we're moving on to talk more about volunteer positions. So there are several ways that people can get involved, and we encourage anyone who's interested to call up the senior center. How much time?
You're at your 15 minutes, but go ahead, finish up. You're fine.
All right. So you can see on the screen, there are a lot of different positions, and all of the help that we get, there's 15 to 20 people a day that help the staff make the place run. It's equivalent to more than 4 full-time people. So without the volunteers, the senior center wouldn't be what it is today. The Friends also fund periodic volunteer opportunities, socials where we get together, we do trainings, so we're really appreciative to the Friends.
So to jump here, because I like numbers, I wanted to give you guys an apple-to-apples comparison. And I picked the year prior to the COVID, so I didn't want an interruption. So I wanted to look at new enrollment, service units for all of the events, and the check-ins, which is the swipe into the building. So I wanted to show you June of 2018 to 19 of July to 21 to 22 for this fiscal year. So you can look at the numbers, the 589 to 270, 2714 for enrollment. We've more than doubled in the event services, and the check into building was 18,000 to 47,000. So you see some big changes, and what's going to be great even next year, I love seeing that comparison year to year. So what are we doing? What can we do better? What can we do more of?
2 minutes.
Very impressive.
I want to show you a quick video because
It's 2 minutes.
yeah, you hear from us, but I wanted you to hear from the people. You can ignore me in the video, which is why I always try and show you guys pictures instead of just numbers. So let me figure this out.
It's the in place to be in Falmouth now.
I just enjoy the time I spend here. I've made a lot of friends here.
This feels like Cheers, the old TV show. Everyone knows your name, and you're part of the family.
This building and what we do is so much more than what you think we do. It's about quality of life and enjoying life and living life. A lot of people, it's their home away from home. They come here and they're surrounded by people. They're surrounded by people having fun and doing things. You know, it's about healthy aging. It's about, being active and feeling connected.
The people, the way it's run, everybody's just nice, and my wife is downstairs doing exercises right now. I'm glad I joined.
It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful building.
Very pleased with it and looking forward to going out on some of the trips.
Wonderful plus for Falmouth.
What makes it special, the staff here.
Everyone is patient and kind, and that's important.
Everyone has something going on in their life where they might need some assistance. The Falmouth community is such a tight-knit community of how do we help people. We have our professional services hallway. That's where we're doing a lot of our confidential appointments, where people can feel comfortable and safe that they're meeting with an outreach coordinator or a social worker.
Well, I like the exercise classes.
I love the food, I love the people.
The town of Falmouth actually values its senior citizens.
I don't know what's nicer, the lunch or the cribbage.
out because you'll be amazed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Just one question.
Yes.
Are you finding that having the rec center next door is helpful and useful? Do you guys do exercise programs over there, or?
The things we've collaborated on a few things, especially with the gym. We do a senior pickleball, senior basketball, we do senior walking. We've also, because some support groups are all ages, we just established a collaboration with the Parkinson's support group and also with the VNA bereavement support group, even though we have another one at the senior center. Because they're all ages, we worked at the rec to get a space so we can offer those support groups and we can market them. So that's what we did.
Great, thanks.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thanks. And
Great.
I wanted to promote September's National Senior Center Month. We are going back to having our annual open house, so we're really excited about that. It's on Monday, September 26th from 4 to 6. We'll have municipal, local, and state partners all there, which will be great.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much. Well done.
Can I clarify that open house is open to people who are not eligible for the senior center?
And it's all because we want family members, we want caregivers, we want people to see what the center's about, not only the resources that we'll have in the big room, but if people want to walk around the building, this is a great chance. We didn't get to do that as a grand opening because of COVID.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the town manager hiring process. And as you heard in the acting town manager's report, the board needs to discuss what this process is going to look like moving forward. So the questions that I'd like to pose to the board is, again, do you wish to appoint a search committee?
Yes. I'm on a search committee to find the new president of Sea Education Association, and it is incredibly invaluable. They have a wide range of resources that is in people and connections that they already have. They really helped us walk through crafting what we wanted to put out there to represent SCA and what we wanted in a new president, and they're professionals, so they know what they're doing, and that has been an amazing experience. So I would recommend that for us.
Are we talking about a local committee, or are you talking about bringing a firm in to run the process?
Oh, I apologize. I was talking about bringing in a professional firm.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is one of the questions, so if we want to take that one first, we can.
Sorry.
Does the board wish to retain a firm to assist with the recruitment and selection? And it sounds like we have one person who wants to put that forward.
I guess the question that I have is, does the Massachusetts Municipal Association essentially provide counselors that could serve in that capacities? And frequently, that's just part of our dues that we pay with for that association. I don't know whether anybody knows, or has it reached out to them?
I can speak to that. They do not.
Oh, they do not.
No, there's, the closest thing to that, Mr. Patterson, is there is a state agency, the Collins Center.
Collins Center.
Oh, yes.
And they don't do it for free,
Right.
but because they're a state agency, you can contract with them without going through a competitive procurement selection process.
And have they done such programs?
Yes.
For other municipalities?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I would certainly support Anjali's premise. I would also like to see some public participation with the committee as well. I don't know why we couldn't do a little bit of both.
Comments, Mr. Brown?
I'd be happy to advertise it in the International City Management Association newsletter and a couple of newspapers.
We have to do that by the charter.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so that's part of the process, and that's not a part of the process that we get to sort of dictate.
I'm saying I'd be happy with that process.
Yes, it's,
Oh, okay.
it is, it's,
So you're saying you'd be happy with just that process?
is that what you're saying?
I
I'm
am
sorry, I
saying
missed
that.
that. Okay, so you're not looking for a firm, you're not looking for a committee, you're looking
I'm
for.
not opposed to them, but I would
advertise.
be happy with doing the simple basics that we have here. But I'd be happy to consider other options as well.
But I think that, along with that, I mean, I'd like to know what they're offering as to what value it would bring to us in terms of, you know, in making that choice, educating us on what we should be looking for, what other municipalities are looking for.
Certainly, then we'll have to do some legwork in terms of what's out there, what they offer, and whether we have to put it out if we don't go with the Collins Center. I believe you would have to put it out.
Yes, I can speak to the procurement process. So from what I have not done thorough research on it, but in speaking with a couple of peers from other communities, the cost range seems to be in the $10,000 to $50,000 range, depending on the scope of work that you choose to engage the firm. And as far as procurement goes, over $10,000, you must solicit quotes. So you can establish minimum qualification criteria. You can select who you want to solicit quotes from, but you must solicit at least 3. And I can have a staff member reach out to some of those firms to get an idea, some sample scopes in terms of Mr. Patterson's question as to what they are offering. And again, the one exception to the quote process would be the Collins Center.
Right. Because it's state-run.
For that route.
Okay, if you would do that, that would be great. In terms of a search committee,
I wouldn't want it to be too big.
do you want a committee at all?
I'd be willing to consider it, but I wouldn't advocate strongly for it. I think it's really the job of this board to figure this out. If it's a committee, I mean, I know Michael Kasparian, for instance, of the Chamber of Commerce has expressed interest. I'm sure there are other folks in town that would be interested. I don't want it to be too big of a process. For instance, the DEI position, we had so much public comment and so many ideas. I don't think this is similar to that. I think this should, if there's a committee, it should be a small committee.
I do wonder if that's something that a consultant would be able to tell us if we need that or not, or if they would recommend that or not. I don't know if that's within the scope of their work, but.
Fair point. I will say that I do agree with Mr. Brown in the sense that it is one of the major responsibilities of the Select Board.
Right.
To do their due diligence to come up with the best applicant. So, but again, if that's something that the board would like us to look into, we can do that as well.
I don't think I feel strongly either way. But I do agree that it is one of the few things that we are directly tasked with doing.
Responsible for, sure. Mr. Patterson, do you have a
No,
sense on that?
having been on the school committee, I mean, we had a sort of a screening committee to look at applicants and had a criteria for how to, but then only brought back like 3 candidates for the committee to actually vote on. So you might want to consider that as an option, right? But ultimately, it has to be the 5 of us that would make that final decision.
Right.
Does anybody
Mr.
find
Zelinski?
does anybody find it useful to possibly get a representative from each precinct to be on a search committee, or at least give input?
I don't know. I feel like that's not exactly what they've been working with. I don't know if they would be able to be understanding the needs of what this board needs from a town manager.
Certainly one way to look at it.
So I think we need to do a little bit more research and bring it back to the board before we can make any decisions on what the process is going to look like. Is that what I'm feeling?
Interested to know what the professional consultant would offer, what that scope of services would be. I don't want to hand off too much responsibility to them, but if they want to tell us what they would do, I'd be interested to hear that.
And to listen, sure. Okay. And I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, I didn't realize that you were just saying that you would keep it to that process.
I would keep it simple, and it's.
I apologize, I didn't
I think
hear
it's
that.
primarily work for us to do, so I would just put that out there, see who's out there, talk to them, and make a decision.
So we will come back to you with some ideas around what firms do, what they offer, before we make the decision, so you have more information. Okay. Thank you. We just needed a little direction on that one. Okay, moving forward. Vote articles and execute warrant for the November 2022 annual town meeting. Let's take a look at the articles, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson-Staub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you do have a copy of the schedule, the calendar, if you will, for the November annual town meeting. The board does need to vote tonight so that we can send the warrant to the newspaper to be printed for this Friday. That is a time-sensitive requirement, and that sets us on a course so that the board, select board and the finance committee vote their recommendations by October 3rd, and then the warrant with the recommendations is published by October 28th for the November 14th town meeting. There is a summary of the articles in your packet that shows which articles are recommended by the planning board versus the finance committee versus the select board. I'll skip over that and go right to the warrant articles themselves. The first two articles are pro forma to choose town officers for the year in accordance with the nomination to be offered at town meeting, to hear reports of committee, that's Article 1. Article 2, to hear reports of committees and town officers and act thereon. I should mention at this point that although we do typically put those two articles at the beginning of the warrant after that, these article numbers are suggested for your consideration, but you can certainly reorder them as you may wish. Article 3, we have the town bylaw recodification. I believe the board is aware that the Attorney General did not approve the recodification of the bylaw. I'm only generally familiar with that decision, and my understanding is that the Attorney General found that some of the changes that were included in the recodification were substantive and not just formatting and rearranging. So this is back on the warrant for reconsideration, and the planning board is reviewing that in detail, and we will have a staff presentation for the select board as well.
Do you have a copy of what we received back from the AG's office based on the concerns? I'd like to see that.
Yep.
Agreed.
I can certainly get that for you.
And if I could comment, Madam Chair, I do have a concern about the fact that the language this time says make clerical and substantive revisions, and if that language is necessary, I would accept it, but I'd like to have a line at the bottom that says that the intent is to reorganize but not change the zoning bylaws and the Code of Falmouth, because we are only trying to make it easier to use and read, but not actually creating zoning changes. There were clerical errors that did result in actual zoning changes that are being resolved now. It's been pointed out as they go along. I watch the planning board and I watch the zoning board, and they have run into some of these clerical issues actually leading to denials, which projects that would have previously been approved. So I would like to see some language at the bottom here. I'd like to say this, either remove substantive, the word substantive, or add language at the bottom that says the intent is to make the zoning bylaw more user-friendly, or some language like that, but not to change the zoning or the intent of the zoning. And I don't know if I'm sure I don't have that language correct, but I just want to clarify what town meeting is voting on is changing the
process?
Changing the document so it's more usable, but not changing the zoning by default with the language.
It's substantive versus clerical reordering,
Right,
correct?
because the first time we voted it, we specifically said we didn't want to make substantive changes. It seems like we're taking that out now in response to the Attorney General's feedback, but I don't think substantive changes should be made in a recodification. I think it should be expressly not made.
So I hear your concern there, and I would just say that this language was crafted by the planning staff and town council. So I'm reluctant to make any changes on the fly without consulting with them. I will bring that back to them to see if that is a sort of a friendly amendment that's consistent with what the planning board is seeking to achieve and with what they think the the Attorney General will approve. I guess, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think there may be some, I'm sure there's a reason that language is there, and I think what it may be is that there are some very small changes to address obsolete issues that don't need to be addressed in the zoning bylaw anymore, but those will need to be clearly identified and articulated, so the message to town meeting is going to have to be different. If what I'm presuming to be the case is true, then there are some substantive changes, and those will have to be detailed and explained to town meeting.
Right, and I said, the word substantive may be essential here, but maybe we just added some kind of a disclaimer at the bottom that we don't intend to change the zoning bylaws through this action. If that, maybe none of this changes, maybe we just add a line at the bottom just as for the intent, or maybe it's in the explanation.
And it's hard for me to look at this and to know what the issues were for the first submission without seeing the report from the AG's office that said why it wasn't okay. And that's why I'm stuck on the word substantive.
I got you.
Because if the report came back and said, no, these changes are substantive, and that's not what you were doing, so I can't really say anything about this without seeing the report first.
Understood. And just to clarify, the board is being asked to put this article on the warrant, not to take a position on it. So, clearly there are issues that need to be addressed before this board would recommend the article.
Yes.
And I think really it's
That's
up
why I
to the town meeting to decide whether it's substantive or not.
Mm.
And it may be that the Attorney General is forcing us into a situation by basically telling us, so that's a substantive change.
We have to acknowledge it.
We're going to have to acknowledge it, exactly. So I don't think that's something we should worry about, personally. That's something for town meeting to resolve.
Okay, I guess the language can be changed there. 'Cause
Yeah.
we have to vote this today to keep it moving, right?
Right.
Right.
And the article is on behalf of the planning board. So, I think we need to defer to them on the wording.
And they've been very proactive at, seeing that these things get fixed as they go along. So maybe I'm just raising something that I've observed, so we'll figure it out.
Go ahead.
So the
please.
next article is to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for funding capital improvements. That's your standard capital article each year. The board has received a copy of the capital improvement plan. The next article is along the same lines. It's for non-capital projects, so these are the other one-time expenditures that are in the capital plan that are not actually associated with capital assets. And that leads us to Article 6, which is to authorize the Select Board to petition the General Court to remove all personnel of the Falmouth Fire Department, including the fire chief, from civil service, as we did with the police department, and as the board is aware, unfortunately, that is languishing in the state legislature. But they're, for all of the same reasons that we voted to remove and negotiated with the unions in both the case of the fire department and the police department, the unions have consented to that exit from civil service, in part because they recognize the need to streamline our hiring process. Article 7 is to vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money to supplement the fiscal year 23 budget. There are 3 articles to supplement the fiscal, that's the current year, FY23 budget, and we've divided them. The first one is for raise and appropriate items, so those are funded with recurring monies from the tax rate, and the term we use there is raise and appropriate. The 2 items that we know of at this time for that article is to correct the debt appropriation and to appropriate additional money for the school department that was awarded by the state through Chapter 78. Article 8 is to vote to appropriate a sum of money from free cash, so a different funding source, to supplement specifically the reserve fund, and that is to replenish the reserve fund which was drawn down substantially, as the board is aware, to pay for a settlement. The next article is also to supplement the FY23 budget from free cash, and that is for issues unrelated to the reserve fund. And at this time, I know that we will have some wage appropriations that we will be looking to address in that article. The next article is number 10, and that is a petition article to appropriate $7,300 for the Mass Cultural Council on petition from Alice Kosiemba. Article 11 is a petition article from Robert Velosevich, and that is to repeal Chapter 191, Article 5, which is the prohibition on the sale of single-use plastic water bottles, which was adopted by town meeting in 2020. The next article is similarly a petition article, this one from Dana Nielsen. It is also to repeal the same single-use plastic water bottle bylaw that was adopted by town meeting.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is there any significant difference between these two, even though they're written differently? Are they both?
The intent is the same. I have not yet spoken with town council to know whether they're both in proper form to accomplish their objective, but we can certainly work with town council to put that in the recommendation to make sure that they are in proper form to achieve the petitioner's desired outcome.
Thank you.
But on the surface, I would say they're looking to achieve the same thing.
Looks like it.
Next article is Article 13, which is to adopt a bylaw this is a petition article submitted by Nan Logan, and it is to require disposal of certain surplus firearms as follows. The purpose and intent is to take action to prevent injury to the people of Falmouth. And I won't read the entire article, but it does involve prohibition of assault weapons specifically being restricted so that they would be disposed of and not traded in and resold. Next article is Article 14. This is a petition article submitted by, on behalf of Malcolm Donald, and it is seeking to address a concern with respect to black plastic containers, which apparently are difficult to recycle. And that is your annual town meeting warrant.
Questions, comments?
No other comments for me.
Any concerns with the order of the articles?
No, it seems to be
No.
pretty much how we've structured the articles in past warrants.
Well, I do have a question. Just looking at who does the recommendations, it goes planning board, 2 FinCom, select board, 4 FinCom, and then 4 select board. Should we put all the FinCom together and all the select board together? Doesn't matter.
It's just it's what's done ahead of time.
Right, it's the recommendation, yeah, but, no, okay.
Yeah, some of the select board recommendations are petition articles and some are not. So
I don't particularly care, I'm just wondering.
That's a good question
I think it's fine.
for order. Okay, we need to vote, so do I have a?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the articles and execute the warrant for the November 2022 annual town meeting. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have number 7. I'm going to turn that over to Vice Chair Angela Scott Price, and I'm going to leave the room.
So this item is to approve disclosure by Nancy Taylor, a municipal employee, of financial interest in this contract as required by General Law 268A, Section 20B. Were there any questions about what was submitted?
No, it's the same as last year.
Yep.
Yep, same as last year, and Nancy is well qualified to support the school district, and I don't see any problems with the town side government activity. And
I think it worked well last year. The schools are pretty independent of us, so I don't see a lot of conflict. I mean, once in a while, we might have something come up, and Nancy has always recused herself in those situations, so I think it's okay.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You see any?
I was gonna yell, but, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, and just a reminder, if there's anything that I read that you want to hold or discuss, please let me know. Licenses, approve addition of rain date for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license, Cape Cod Bocce Tournament, Joe Q. Veteran Coffee Break, Falmouth Academy, Saturday, October 8th, 2022. Administrative orders, approve application for grant funds from the Seaport Council in the amount of $30,000 for design, permitting, and engineering for the refurbishment and upgrade of the Great Harbor Woods Hole Commercial Fishing Dock. Approve Eversource petition to install in Fairmont Avenue, one new handhold labeled 53H3A at the base of existing pole 53.3, and to install approximately 45 feet of conduit and cable under the town roads starting at the new handhold 53H3A. This work is necessary to provide new electric service to 345 Grand Ave. Approve grant of license to Bruce and Hetty Booch to maintain a post and rail fence and landscaping elements located in the town right-of-way at 172 Grand Ave. Approve grant of license to Joseph and Catherine Hinderhofer, trustees of the Joseph J. Hinderhofer Revocable Trust, to maintain a post and rail fence located in the town right-of-way at 97 Bridge Street. Approve application to Community Preservation Fund for Highfield Hall improvements. Approve request from the Tony Andrews Farm located at 394 Old Meeting House Road for a waiver of the annual entertainment and Sunday entertainment license fees and filing fees. Approve release and settlement agreement with Michael Rogers et al. Authorize acting town manager to file state revolving fund loan application for wastewater treatment facility improvements. Committee appointments, Veterans Council, Carissa April, Joe Q. Veteran Coffee Break Representative. Veterans Council Committee, Elizabeth Sweeney, Falmouth Lodge, number 2380, BPO Elks. Golf Advisory Committee, Carrie Murphy, the 300 Committee Representative.
I move approval of all of the license, administrative order, and committee appointments.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second to approve the consent agenda for licenses, admin orders, committee appointments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, town manager supplemental report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to begin with, I want to provide a brief update on the wind turbine demolition. The power to the turbines has been disconnected, so that step has been taken, which is a good step forward. We do not yet have a date for the towers to come down, but that is in progress. And next, I want to mention the police. There was a bid, bids for the renovation of the police station, the interior improvements to the police station that were approved by town meeting have come in, and unfortunately, they are over budget. So I will be meeting with staff and communicating with the architect to see what might be our next steps, whether there is any way to move forward with those bids to secure additional funding, or what the next step might be. This is sort of consistent with the pattern that we've just been seeing in the last year with construction prices just escalating at a torrid rate.
Could I
Mr.
ask,
Brown?
how far off was the lowest one?
So the lowest was $100,000 over the appropriation amount, but that means no contingency. So we're several $100,000 out.
Right, okay.
Staffing updates. As the board is aware, Jennifer Mullen has submitted her notice of resignation as finance director effective September 30th. I am very sorry to see her go. She's served the town very well, and that would be a big hole to fill. We have posted the position with only minor updates to the job description, and I will continue to update the board in the coming weeks as to our success and progress for filling that position. Some other staffing updates to touch on. We did have a communications officer submit a notice of resignation, and at the same time we did offer a position to a communications officer, so we're one down, one up. We still have a vacancy, but we're at least treading water on that one. We did offer a conservation office principal office assistant position that was accepted recently, so that position has been filled. We had an internal promotion for the principal office assistant for the planning department, which will lead to another vacancy in the building department that we will be looking to fill. And with that, your next meeting is September 26th, a regular meeting. You have a workshop Saturday, October 1st to continue the strategic planning process and hopefully conclude the strategic planning process. At that meeting, the board will be discussing FY 2024 budget priorities as well. And then you have a regular meeting on October 3rd. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson-Staub. Select Board reports. Mr. Brown?
I want to say that since our last regular meeting, I attended at the library. I mentioned this briefly before, but they called it P-cycling. It's kind of a funny name, but it was with regard to the idea of, rather than sewering the town, it was put on by Hildy Maingay and Earl Barnhart of the Green, what do they call it? The New Alchemy, but it's got a new name, Green Center.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pointing out the fact that phosphorus is a limited resource, and that rather than, continuing with sewering, we should be considering a plan to use urine diverting toilets and capture the nitrogen before it hits the sewage system. And I found it very interesting, although I don't feel like the equipment that was proposed would be really widely accepted based on my experience with trying to motivate people to use the composting toilets. But I was interested to learn that there are now urine diverting toilets which also have a flush option for the solid waste, which I found very hopeful. And I don't know that they're yet approved in Massachusetts, but something to keep an eye on and keep thinking about if it could be something that we could consider, whether or not it takes the place of sewer planning in our estuary areas. That'll remain to be seen, but certainly in the freshwater pond areas and the Hatchville areas and all the areas that are never going to be practical for sewering, that could really be something that would really help us to get quickly ahead of the curve on the nitrogen loading. So I'm looking forward to looking into that more. Sam and I attended the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association meeting last week, and it's always good to do that. I really enjoy learning what other towns are doing and keeping abreast of what we might be missing on some good ideas. We're not usually missing too much, but it's good to know that we're not. And I did actually get added to the board, so Sam and I are both board members now of the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting it, but they just threw it out there, and I said, okay. And then on Saturday, I attended a country dance at the Weary Travelers Club, actually up in Pocasset, but it was to benefit the Joe Q Veterans Coffee Break group here in Falmouth. It was pretty well attended. The place was pretty full, and we had a good time. There was an auction, and it was pretty fun. I saw several Falmouth people there and several veterans advocates, so it was a good night. And that's about it for me for now.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Patterson?
Yes, just wanted to recommend that we take a look at the Charter Review Committee's final report on page 17, they had a number of strategic items that they were sort of recommending that we take seriously. And I think, as we come up with our final draft of our strategic plan, we ought to take a look at that, because that's a very sophisticated group of people. They really put a lot of work into it. That report is quite substantive, and I just want to make sure we don't just simply brush it aside without taking a serious look at it in terms of our own strategic planning. The only thing I can add, I attended the Affordable Housing Committee as well as the Community Preservation Committee this past week. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Ms. Scott Price?
So I did mention already that I spent the day with the Falmouth Fire Department, and I highly recommend that everyone participate in that at some point. It was really fun. I did a lot of listening, which was always good. And then I also attended an event that was hosted in Hyannis, and one of the main speakers was from Karen, which is an institution similar to that of Gosnold, and they talked about the gaps that are in towns in general in helping people who have substance use disorder and addiction issues. And I really think that we should connect them with our Health and Human Services. And I mentioned this at strategic planning a little bit, but that event was very specific and very guided and got a lot of information out of it that I think we could use here to really help our community.
Excellent. Anything else? I'll just mention the 9/11 remembrance. It was Ms. Scott Price, Mr. Zielinski, and I were there, and it was really well done, as it is every year, and it's just a really good time to sort of remember and reflect and honor people whose lives and families were impacted by 9/11. They did a great job. Mr. Zielinski?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be invited to an event at Mass Maritime on Friday. And the Lieutenant Governor was there, and Ken Turner, who's the president of Mass Life Sciences. I wish you were there to help guide me through some of the terminology, but what an impressive man and an impressive program, and how he explained the process and his drive to increase capital and stem cell advancement for students. It was very impressive. And again, I could have used your help, being that's your bailiwick, to try to navigate some of the terminology, but it was very, very interesting. And I was happy to have been a participant or invited to be there.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So Mass Life Sciences has a really great internship program where they have companies put information about themselves, and then you hire an intern, and at the end of the summer they reimburse you for whatever you paid. We've had interns at the company I work for 2 years in a row, and it was amazing program. And so
you're familiar with Ken Turner, though, and
yes.
What an impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was getting.
Ex-Navy guy too.
You had a great opportunity.
Ex-naval officer.
Thank you.
That's me. That's all I've got.
Any discussion for future agenda items?
I just want to get through strategic planning first.
Thank you.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.